the rise of Islamism, please, in British prisons?
Yes, I think without a doubt there is a rise of Islamist gangs within prison, and it is very difficult to manage them. You know, at Wormwood Scrubs, as the head of security, I had to take the decision to split our Friday night or Friday afternoon service for Muslims in two, because we had about 400 prisoners that wanted to attend their service, and you know, it's a constant battle, because you know, we all know prisons have no spaces, so it's where once it was easy to transfer prisoners out to different prisons, it's not so easy now. And you know, I think that we have to be mindful. Yeah, there are a rise of Islamist gangs within our jails, and we have to deal with that, and deal with it short and sharp.
Thank you. Tim Shipman, Spectator.
I wasn't actually expecting that, Nigel. So.
Well, you're on the list. I mean,
can you talk to us about your impressions of the public reaction to all this? What sort of? I remember you saying a few months ago that you were getting less abuse on the streets. Are you now detecting a warmth over these issues towards you that you weren't detecting before? And have you noticed, now that these issues have turned to matters of sexual assault, that you're getting more women and mothers talking about it to you when you go out and about?
Yes is the answer to that, very, very clearly. And it was interesting, wasn't it, to see the protest, the very peaceful protest of the women dressed in pink that were outside Canary Wharf yesterday, protesting, I have to say, very peacefully, quite why the police seemed to think a Section 43 was necessary, and to prohibit them from going back within 28 days. And maybe it was the masked thugs from Antifa who perhaps they should have been focusing their attentions on. Just an observation, just a thought. But I do think one of the things that's happened over the course of the last few weeks is, without doubt, we're definitely seeing not just high-profile women coming to reform, and you've seen one or two of those on the stage here and in Wales over the course of the last few weeks, but I think generally out there, I think there is grave concern, particularly amongst mothers, about their teenagers, whether they can let them out. So yes, I think this is perhaps this issue has spoken a truth to people that they've been feeling increasingly for some time, and I think that maybe changes the complexion of how people view reform. You know, the sort of, when I came back into this last June, people regarded it as being a bit of a blokish party. Something to do with my reputation, I can't quite think why. But I think that's changing, and changing very rapidly, and this campaign is very much a part of that. Anna Gross, Financial Times.
I'll do it without this.
All right.
Have you received any communications from J.D. Vance or other members of the US administration saying they support your policy of repealing the Online Safety Act? And a second, if I may, will all reform-led councils block the use of HMOs to accommodate asylum seekers? Is that already a policy? Is it something that you're starting to do?
Yes, we were absolutely, all those councillors, all those nearly 700 councillors that were elected back on May the 1st this year, absolutely. And it's quite a debate, isn't it? Because whilst it's the hotels that have the visibility, and that's where the protests happen, in some ways the HMOs are even worse than the hotels, because you're
next door, they're over the road, you don't know where they are. And this is the problem, is that in Warwickshire, in the north of the county where I'm from, Nuneaton, Bedworth, we don't have a Margaret Hotel, but we've got loads of HMOs that are increasingly popping up. But in the south of the county, there's loads of Margaret Hotels. People have had enough. You know, like I said during the campaign, we have three things in Warwickshire reform: honesty, integrity and transparency. And when this come across my desk, I couldn't break away from my instincts. Transparency is the key to this. If you keep on and tell the people the truth, They understand and they know what to work with. This is the point. If we highlight them all, people can understand. The Home Office are telling Warwickshire Chief Constable, telling Warwickshire County Council, oh, we're not going to tell you where all the HMOs are. We're not going to tell you. We don't know where they are. That's dangerous. That's against safeguarding. As the Children and Family Portfolio holder, that's a huge problem for the children in Warwickshire. It's about safety. It's simple.
Yeah, and it's actually worth you talking to Sarah Pochin. One of the big elements that came out of the Runcorn by-election was the HMO issue. Who said, well, there's a house here and 10 or 15 people from a completely different culture have been put in this house, and they say they've been following our kids to school, and we're very, very scared. I recommend that you talk to her. As for the JD Vance, I can't remember the answer to that. Oliver Harris, Politics UK.
Thank you. Good morning. Some 500,000 people have signed a parliamentary petition calling for the government to repeal the Online Safety Act. I wonder, one, what are your thoughts on that? And two, could you see any instrumental benefits of the Act in its current form, if any?
I'm going to call Zia Yusuf up to the platform. He has spent more time researching this and getting acquainted with this than probably most people in governmental positions.
Thanks, Nigel. Can we see any instrumental benefits within the Act? A few. Look, it's an Act of around 200 pages, and this is why Reform made the decision, Nigel made the decision that when he's the Prime Minister we will have to repeal it, because the vast majority of the Act are A, irrelevant to protecting children, B, unfit for purpose, and as Nigel's already articulated, in some cases actually do detriment to safety of children online. Let's talk firstly about the overreach, which Nigel alluded to earlier. Even if you were to be kind and say none of this was intentional, and the intention of the bill all along was to protect children, in the end you have to judge legislation by the outcomes that it delivers. The Act has been in force now for about a week or so. Look at the things that have been censored as a result of it. You've seen protests at migrant hotels in Leeds censored on social media. You've seen people trying to log into their Spotify accounts being unable to do so. Kids literally, this is true, trying to change the settings on their NVIDIA graphics cards, being prevented from doing so. You've had, as Nigel said, historical accounts and biographies of Richard the Lionheart being censored online. You've had Reddit forums giving people help as to how to quit smoking being censored, and you've seen, for example, transcript. I mean, if you want to talk about protecting children from predators, then you'll have to explain to me why Katie Lamb's speech, excoriating the cover-up of the grooming gangs to the shame of this country, where there's supposed to be parliamentary privilege. So, I could go on and on and on. So the short answer is, of course, we care about the safety of children. Nigel cares more than anybody about it, but we have to take legislation seriously. And frankly, the last thing I'll say is, as someone who built a tech business, understands this stuff reasonably well, how the internet actually works, it is very clear that the people making this legislation haven't got the first clue about how the online world actually works.
Zia, thank you very much for that. We've got a few more. We've got Ava Evans from Politics Joe.
Hi, Nigel. Keir Starmer is reportedly seriously considering introducing digital ID to tackle immigration. Is that something you would support?
Yes, it's a Blairite idea. I'm sure that Tony Blair would have us all microchipped. No, I don't support it. I don't trust big government. If you want to see why my trust in government doesn't exist, just think about what's happened in the space of the last week, where they introduced legislation that they tell you is purely to protect children and actually is having a terrible effect on free speech and democracy. I would not trust this government with digital ID. I have to say I didn't particularly enjoy the vaccine passport phase that we lived through. And as for the argument, it'll stop crime, it'll stop illegal immigration, it'll stop illegal working, well, I don't think digital ID will stop teenage girls being raped. I don't think digital ID will stop the drugs gangs. I don't think digital ID will stop illegal working. Frankly, what it's more likely to do is to impinge upon the law-abiding majority. Right, OK, we've got three more. Adam Cherry from Guido Fawkes.
Thank you. Can I just get your reaction to the news that the Labour Party is relying on analyses of Reform voters and profiling of Reform voters provided by Hope Not Hate, given that Hope Not Hate repeatedly refers to reform as far right.
Yeah, which is moronic. And Labour are going to struggle. They're going to struggle to profile reform voters. Do you know why? They are not only spread geographically, and didn't we rather prove that point in the recent Scottish Parliament by-election? We're not only spread geographically, but of all the parties, we have the greatest spread of age ranges of people voting for us, of religions, ethnicities, and now almost exactly 50-50 male-female voters. So to profile your average reform voter, well, they probably think we're all knuckle-draggers, but I'm afraid, I'm really sorry, but they're just wrong. OK, Will Hazel from the iPaper.
Hello, thank you. Vanessa Frakes spoke about the desperate need for investment in the prison estate very powerfully. Is that consistent with the very significant tax cuts you're offering? And just on tax, I'm not sure if you've seen, but Neil Kinnock has urged Rachel Reeves to extend VAT to private healthcare in the same way that Labour did with
Brilliant.
schools. Could I get your reaction?
Oh, well, that Kinnock chap's marvellous, isn't he? Why don't we get everyone to emigrate? You know, the talk of wealth taxes. I mean, can you not see what's happening? There is an exodus from this country of high taxpayers. There is an exodus from this country of young people who are not yet big earners, but many of whom are the entrepreneurs of the future. I understand 54 schools have closed, private schools have closed this year already. Rather than putting VAT on premiums that you pay to private healthcare, perhaps if we gave people a bit of tax relief on paying for private healthcare, we might just relieve the pressure off the National Health Service. So I think they've got this all completely the wrong way around. Last question, Jessica Elger from The Guardian.
Hi there, Nigel. Are you in any way concerned that the comments Mr. Finch made earlier might put a trial and a potential conviction at risk? And I'm not talking about the comments about his immigration status, but about some of the terms he used to describe the case.
Well, I can imagine if I was leader of Warwickshire County Council and I was getting the level of distress from voters and residents that George is feeling, if that means that he was slightly emotional, well, do you know what? Good. Perhaps we really do need to start actually really thinking and caring about protecting children. And that means these young men should not be free to walk our streets. We're not just talking here about protecting children, we genuinely intend to do it. Thank you very much indeed, everyone.